Welcome to the Making Team Projects Work video series. I'm Tim France. I'm here every week with Lauren Vicker. This week, we are going to talk about team conflict. Lauren is going to introduce our guest speaker this week.
So thanks, Tim. This week, we are very pleased to welcome Dr. Karen Clinton Jones, who is the Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Binghamton University. She's fulfilled similar roles at SUNY Buff State, as well as Virginia Tech, and she's also had quite a bit of experience in the corporate world with DEI. So welcome, Karen. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Lauren and Tim. It's a pleasure to be here and good to see you again.
So it's great to be talking to you about conflict because we know that it's something that you've probably experienced not only in the teams that you have been on, but the teams that you've been called in to manage and deal with conflict. So could you talk a little bit about what your approach to conflict is and maybe give us a couple of tips that people might use for their own team conflict?
Sure. And we know anytime that there's an audience of more than one person, there's bound to be conflict or confusion or misunderstanding. And so my perspective has always been to operate from the perspective of grace, realizing that many instances, or at least in one instance of our lives, we've all made mistakes and wanted to be forgiven for it or help to provide guidance as to how we can remedy those mistakes. And so I tend to operate from the perspective of let's seek to get an understanding, and along those lines, helping to make certain that my understanding is correct. And so one of the things that I often guide people towards is let's seek to get an understanding as to what's actually taking place. And so I'm also someone who evaluates my own perspective first and say, okay, did I really experience this? What else may be going on that's creating this sensation for me? And then if I can't eliminate anything that I may have misperceived, one of the things that I do is say, hey, can we talk about this? Because I'm trying to get an understanding as to what happened rather than placing people on the defensive and saying, you did this to me, or you made this snarky statement and I was offended. And so for me, it's all about the matter of seeking to get an understanding so that I can at least manage my own expectations. And then following that, working towards a remedy, either identifying ways that we can correct the behavior or that I can get a better understanding as to what I might do differently, particularly if I'm finding myself in a similar situation.
I love that idea of you taking ownership of what's going on in that situation, because I think we often forget about that. You're right. When we think about that we're having an issue with someone or somebody on our team, or the entire team is having an issue, take it back on yourself.
Yeah. And I think there's value in self-reflection. And sometimes, even though the person for whom I may have received the ouch may not be aware of it, I can at least from that perspective moving forward, identifying what it was about that behavior. Was it something that they said that triggered, an experience from an earlier time, and then we're transferring the experience onto the person without the person even knowing it? And so it's really, how do we come to a meeting of the minds to resolve problem situations in a way that keeps everyone whole?
These are fabulous tips, Karen. I love, I agree with Lauren. Great about seeking understanding and holding your own judgment in check so that you're not the one actually adding to the conflict.
Yeah. And at times, if I've made a mistake, being the first to acknowledge an apology and not one of those, I'm sorry if, you felt that way, but truly making a sincere effort to say, I value the relationship, I value your contributions, and I'm sorry that I offended you. And, it takes some growth in being able to do that and acknowledgement of your own vulnerability.
Absolutely. That power of apology. Well,
Mhm.
thank you, Karen Clinton Jones, with us today. We appreciate her tips, some really good ones about resolving team conflict. This is Tim France with Lauren Vicker in the Making Team Projects Work video series. Thanks for watching again.
Thank you. And you
Thank
can
you.
read the full blog post at the link below this video.